when you're yanking a pull starter, you want to go slightly easy. You don't want to go too hard on the pull starter because the more harder you guys get on the pull starter, well, the more it's not going to work. But the first thing is, when a pull starter chainsaw is, you can't just keep sitting there, keep pulling it really, really hard and just keep doing this until you give your arm a break. Give your arm a break. You know, the best way you can do this is you pull it slightly easy so you can get fuel through the carburetor. It's got to get fuel. The only way it's going to get fuel through those carburetors in older chainsaws, especially older ones. This is what you should do. This is what you actually should do. Pull it slightly easy. Pull out the whole handle slightly easy a few times. Have it right up to here. Then pull it back down again. And do the same thing again. Right about 4 or 6 times. You just got to count it. 1. So there were about like 3 right there. So there's 4. There's 5. And there's 6. Just like that. Then it should run 1 pull. 1 start. And that's the only way you can get it to the run 1 start. And if you don't know what the heck you're doing, just be careful with the recoil spring. The older chainsaws, they have technically rare recoil springs. And recoil springs are a bitch to put back in. I mean, yeah, they are a bitch to wind back up in there, I'm telling you. Once you keep pulling on it, you're going to risk the recoil spring. You're going to bust the recoil spring right out of it. It's just the thing. I don't know how mine broke, but I did mine the simple way, and it just... Because they're old. They get brittle sometimes. They get for sitting around. That's the reason I don't like chainsaws when they sit around. Because the more they sit around, the more problems they have. And that's the thing. You leave a chainsaw set in your garage or your building, it's still going to rot up inside. No matter if it's outside or inside, it's still going to rot up no matter what. Paint starts flicking off. You're going to have holes in the freaking fuel tank where the gas has been sitting way too long in it. The gas turns into water and evaporates and just tries to destroy your fuel tank. So if you leave, it's okay to leave gas in it for about 2, 4, 5, 6 years. But if you kind of leave it for like 20 years, a lot of things become to go wrong with that chainsaw. I'm glad I got picked up the Zip. I'm glad I saved that chainsaw before someone else came and bought it. But I'm glad I got that saw because that's the only chainsaw I got that I like. It's something big and bulky. That's what I was wanting. Now I wanted them kind of like a little bit of compact saw from the mid '60s. A little bit heavy, slightly compacty. So that's the reason I want to go with the McCulloch Super 250 because it's a little compact saw. And those saws. Now, here's an easy way to start these saws. I'll give you an easy way to start every single chainsaw. Just remember, when you're yanking on the pull starter, don't keep doing this. You're going to freaking tire your arm out. You're going to risk the recoil spring, then you're going to break it right out. And then this recoil spring is about like, what, $14 to like $18 plus shipping? Very expensive. They raise the recoil springs up on eBay, so the only way you're going to find those parts is unless you go on eBay to get those parts. But let me tell you something. I don't care what kind of chainsaw you got. If either it's a McCulloch, either it's other chainsaws. Pull slightly on it. Don't pull too hard on it. The more harder you pull, the more you're gonna risk the recoil spring. The recoil spring is the thing that's gonna have to get. It winds up back the rope back inside the casing, so it can wind it back up in there. If it doesn't retract in there, how you go restart it back over again? It's got to learn how to retract itself in that cover. That little wind cover. It's got to automatically wind itself back up in there, because if it doesn't wind back itself in there, then you're going to have to go buy, the recoil spring's broken. Then you have to go buy another recoil spring, which really sucks. Believe me, that's what I had in my Zip. I don't know, I pulled slightly on it, did the same thing with my Pioneers, but the only way you're going to give this chainsaw fuel is unless you just keep, tethering it a little bit like this here. Slightly. Go easy. Don't go hard. Go easy. The more easy you pull on these chainsaws, the more the more fuel it's going to get inside that carburetor, the more it's going to start to stay running for a while. It's the only way. That's the only way I run the saws. That's how I run my Zip for a little while. As I try to get fuel inside the carburetor, and I keep pulling it slightly because it gets fuel inside the carburetor. So when the primes, the primer ball will prime it in there and will lift up. So the diaphragm will just prime all that fuel back inside the tank and prime it inside the cylinders. Then you have enough fuel to start it. So that's the thing. You'll get it right. You might flood it a few times, like I did a few times on my Pioneer when I first got it. I kind of flooded it, and fuel started leaking out of a little fuel hose. There's like a little fuel hose. It measures the fuel level. So if it gets too high, it spills it all out, spits it all out. If it gets pressure built inside the tank, it spits all the fuel out a little bit. Sometimes that's a good thing to actually put those hoses in there, because it is a good thing. It keeps pressure from exploding the whole fuel tank, basically. Those are hard steel metal though, but they won't blow out, but they could. But like I say, you want to run a chainsaw slightly easy. The more easier pull, the more fuel you'll be getting in the carburetors. The more you can get that one first start pull. The more you do it a couple of times, the more you get this thing to run. The more, if it doesn't run again, then now you can sit there and pull it really hard after that. Just don't pull too hard. Just do this a little bit. Have the string up level when you need it. So have the rope up level so it can retract itself, so they could not risk the recoil spring. Because I'll tell you what, the most bitches part I ever got into chainsaws, I first discovered in weed whackers. It's like, what the hell is this? And I broke the recoil spring out of that one because I was pulling way too hard on it. And boom, the recoil spring broke. And I took this cover off. I was like, what the fuck is this? I didn't know what the hell it was at first. Until I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's a recoil spring. Everybody says these things are bitch. I will see how bitch they are. So as soon as you pull the fucking damn cover off, it just sponges out. So you take that one, what they call as a flywheel that holds on to the chainsaw and connects to the chainsaw. So most of the older chainsaws will have a catch can on it. Most of them have spleens in it, where it could just, like the catchers, is like a little catch can built into the cover itself. So there's like a little bolt right there you just twist off and unveil the recoil spring, the recoil starter spring. Which is the biggest problem with those is they are really hard to wind back up. I'm not going to give you a straight fact on this. They are a bitch to wind back up in there. You're not supposed to wind them. I heard what they said. They said you're not supposed to wind them in there. You're not supposed to do anything to them. You're just supposed to sit in there, put the cover back on top of it, over top of it. Then don't wind it at all. And just see if it will retract the rope. Here's the biggest part you guys ain't getting at. The biggest problem you guys ain't getting at is the recoil starter spring is the worst thing to get into. Really, it is. It is the worst thing you can ever get into. I hate messing with those. I hate messing with the recoil starter springs. I just don't like them. They suck. That's for the most part. But it was the only way you can run a chainsaw back in the day. I mean, yeah, there was a catch can that used to have a rope. You can just tie the rope around, the can, and you just pull on it. The whole can just doesn't come off, and you just start it again, and you just wrap the rope around it, and you just pull it on there again. But that was your only option. 1958 and 1960 actually had the option, and that way you could just say if the recoil spring starter broke, you can take your rope and you can wrap it around the catch can. There's a little, cutout where you can set the rope in, and you can just wind it up in there. Make sure you round it clockwise, like this way. So, this way right here. It's clockwise, so it's got to go this way. Some are counterclockwise. Some goes this way. Some goes this way. And just whatever. But the thing is, but now you guys know not to risk your recoil spring starter. The more problems you're going to have, the more issues you're going to have refixing that same problem again. The more harder you pull that chainsaw, the more harder you're going to risk the recoil spring. When these things break, they come brittle, and once you broke it, there ain't no way you can fix it no more. If it becomes soft as a rocket, it ain't worth fixing anymore. I mean, you're not wasting precious time on it. I mean, you're risking the recoil spring, and sometimes it can literally take out a lot of things out of it. And I'm gonna be honest, for chainsaws only, is it could be risky. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have some hells and hell throughs with the dang chainsaw, but I'm gonna get it all worked out. But someday, when I'm not gonna work on a project right now. I'm focusing on this last chainsaw I gotta go get first, and I'm kind of pushing the zip to the side for right now. And maybe later on, I might, find another part chainsaw for it. But that's gonna be like a little later on. I hope it stays freed up after time I find another, thing. I might actually go throw some oil inside the cylinder so it doesn't keep it from locking up or anything. So that way I can keep the cylinder from freeing up. So it keeps it freed up. I'm gonna probably just oil the. Probably just gonna put a little bit of oil around the crankcase so it can fire up, so it doesn't screw anything up. Now eventually flush it out with some gas, but to be honest, they could be good running saws. You just learn how to treat it right. Learn how to take care of it. The more you learn how you take care of these saws, the more problems you're not going to run into lately. The more problems you're not going to have lately. That's going to be the next thing you don't want to know is recoil starter springs. They really do come out, and they can be a bitch sometimes. I know because I've been inside one. And they are a complete bitch to wind back up in there in that plastic cover. They really are, in the metal cover. But to be honest, just be careful what chainsaws you buy now these days. Just watch. Always respect it. Always check to be an inspector. Me, I don't respect I don't check for any problems. I'll just buy it and just get it and just take it home, then fix it. Whatever problem the guy tells me. But to be honest, yeah, they are risky. But there's the only way you can save your chainsaw from, blowing up or risking your recoil starter spring. There's your guys' answer. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like. And hooah!